Good evening, and welcome back to What the Show. I'm your host, Zion Quinn, and today we're going to continue our exploration of all the different wacky genres that have shaped television. Last week, we did a deep dive into the realm of sitcoms. We learned about the formulas behind these beloved shows, and what the difference between shows like Friends and The Office are, and why laugh tracks ended up being so dang successful, despite being recycled from an audience that has been very long existent and 6 feet under now. This week, we're going to explore the wonderful world of game shows. Game shows have an incredibly rich and dense history that dates back nearly as far as television itself, with the first game shows being aired in the later half of the 1930s. So, where do we start with such a historically and culturally important genre? Ooh, I know, the scandals. Did you know that game show producers did some really shady stuff back in the 1950s? So, at one point, producers realized that people can be really bad at trivia sometimes, and that can be boring. So they thought to themselves, maybe if the contestants if we gave them the answers ahead of time, that would make it less boring. And so they did just that. And then they had another epiphany, where they're like, whoa. If we tell the more interesting contestants the answers ahead of time, then the audience will like that and our ratings and our bank accounts will skyrocket. And so they did that too. And a lot of it happened. And it was really bad. How bad, you may ask? It was so bad that Congress had to step in and President Eisenhower had to sign a little piece of paper that said, no, stop, bad, stop that now. And then they stopped it, and then they implemented a bunch of rules and stuff, and so it ended up being a little bit of a downer. But on a more serious note, game shows offer more than just quality entertainment. There have been several studies that reflect that game shows scratch a psychological itch, playing with our biological need for competition. For all the little neuroscientists out there, game shows impact our pleasure receptors by causing spikes in dopamine and adrenaline. To put that in layman's terms, game shows are a drug, and they are literally addictive. They make our brains a little high, which I hypothesize might be why they've been successful for so long. There's a game show out there for all television lovers. From quiz shows to extreme challenges, you're guaranteed to find one that scratches your personal psychological itch. These shows have contributed significantly to pop culture and are responsible for creating many of our icons and public figures like Pat Sajak, Alex Trebek, and Bob Barker. Hell, Meghan Markle got her start on Deal or No Deal as a briefcase model before beefing with her royal in-laws. So, now that we've been introduced to one of America's longest-lasting traditions, let's take a swing at the game. Welcome to What the Game Show, the Jeopardy ripoff, where we've scrapped all the concept of answering questions with a question. And why do we do that, you ask? Pick a category. I'll take copyright infringement for 300. This week on What the Game Show, our three lovely contestants will go head-to-head in trivia warfare like you've never seen, but let's be honest, have totally seen before. Without further ado, let's introduce our television experts. First up, let's welcome Joey. He enjoys long rides around the city on those stupid electric scooters all the tech people rent, listening to One Direction, but only the albums before Zayn, pre-Zayn. And his favorite game show is The Price is Right. Let's give it up for Joey. Next up, we have Rosalia. She likes the simple things in life, like long walks and reading in the park, and drinking whiskey alone in a dark room, only lit by the light leaking through the cracks of the blinds on her windows, the metaphoric and symbolic representation of the past that she's trying to block out oh so strongly, the past she's trying to run away from. But like the light through the window, the trauma inevitably leaks in. The memories never fade. Her favorite game show is Nickelodeon's Double Dare. Let's give it up for Rosalia. All right, last but certainly not least, we have Garrett. He enjoys movies, perhaps a little bit too much, karaoke, and baking cookies with his Mima. His favorite game show is Japan's The Extreme Elimination Challenge. Let's give it up for Garrett. Now that the formalities are out of the way, let's get the game going. All right. Who holds the record for the longest consecutive winning streak on the game show Jeopardy? Is it Brad Rutter, Ken Jennings, Larissa Kelly, or Art Fleming?
Ken Jennings.
Bingo boingo! Ken Jennings was the winner of 74 episodes running from June 2nd to 2004 all the way to November 30th, 2004. This monumental run came just 10 months after the show eliminated the cap on how many consecutive episodes a winner is allowed to participate in. Next question. What is the longest running game show ever? A. The Match Game. B. Jeopardy. C. The Price is Right. Or D. Let's Make a Deal. Ooh. That was close, but unfortunately for Rosalia, Garrett buzzed in a moment sooner.
Zion, is it C, The Price is Right?
That's correct. The Price is Right began airing in 1972 with Bob Barker as the host. The show originally aired both in the daytime and a weekly nighttime version. However, in 1980, the nighttime version was sadly canceled. Alrighty, next question. What game show features the incredibly memeable and ribald host Steve Harvey? A. Family Feud. B. Minute to Win It. C. Hollywood Game Night. Or D. Wheel of Fortune.
Family Feud.
Correct! Harvey signed on for the role of host for the 2010-2011 season of Family Feud. However, under the helm of this show saw a major increase in ratings. Next question. Which game show holds the Guinness Book of World Record for hosting a game show the longest? A. Alex Trebek. B. Bob Barker. C. Merv Griffin. Or D. Pat Sajak.
Is it D, Pat Sajak?
Righto! Once again, the record was first held by Bob Barker, who hosted The Price is Right, who has then surpassed by Alex Trebek, who has his run on Jeopardy! However, Sajak surpassed Trebek in 2019 during the Wheel of Fortune's 36th season. Alrighty, folks, let's take another look at those scores. It looks like we have come to a tie. You all know what that means. Rapid fire bonus round. In this round, contestants will only have 10 seconds to answer our last question. Are you ready, folks? What is the most amount of money won in a single game of Jeopardy? A. $77,000. B. $110,000. C. $50,000. Or D. $64,000.
$64,000.
Ding, 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 we have a winner! For those of you curious, the record was set in 2019 by contestant James Holazar. He beat the previous record of $77,000 that was set in 2010 by Roger Craig. Congratulations, Joey, you'll be moving on to the next round, and it looks like Garrett will be joining you. Unfortunately, that means Rosalia will be ending her journey with us right here, right now. Bye-bye. Like I mentioned earlier, game shows have made their place on televisions all across America. But I think we should explore how other countries like to play their games. Of course, we have the legendary Japanese game shows, but I think we should take a look at how shows like in places like Australia, the Netherlands, and maybe even Brazil play their games. To help guide us through these shows, we have our resident television expert. Please welcome Joey. How are you doing tonight, bud?
I'm doing well, Zion. How are you?
I'm doing mighty fine. I don't know about you, but I think I'm ready to go on a tour of how game shows across the world.
Of course I'm ready. Like you said earlier, game shows have been around for a real long time in the US, but it took about 12 years for some of these other countries to catch up.
So, oh wow, so do other countries have different types of shows, or are they modeled like the shows that we have here in America?
A little bit of both. There are quite a few worldwide game show franchises, but there are just as many original show concepts. For example, the show Deal or No Deal was actually created in the Netherlands, but now over 50 countries have their own version of the show. Basically, once a show becomes a smash hit, different production companies want to try to capitalize off of it.
50 countries, that's a lot of deals right there.
Definitely, and it's not the only show to have a reach like that. Did you know that Mongolia just launched their own version of Minute to Win It? Our natural love for competition goes across oceans and creates a universal love for those fun games.
So Joey, I have a question for you. If you had to guess, what do you think some of the most popular game shows around the world are?
That's a bit of a loaded question there, Zion. Like any other genre of the show, the popularity of a program can vary from country to country. But I do think that there's another country that loves game shows just as much as America. In Japan, game shows are wildly popular and have created some very memorable moments that many of us have seen on the internet. While these shows don't look much like the shows that we might see stateside, they're really fun. Here's an example from one of the most popular shows in Japan, Takeshi's Castle.
Oh dear. Ow. Saving right for wearing his pajamas. Good lad. Oh, lost his footing, but he's still going through the mire. Oh, but no, netted, and now boxed. Go on, young lady, you can do it. Right door. Right door. Past the boxing monster, right door. Wrong door. No, right door. She got through.
As we can see, these shows are a bit different than the game shows we're used to. This show in particular is one of the first shows that really solidified the image of what Americans imagine when we think of Japanese game shows. It has the crazy physical challenges that include silly stunts and people constantly falling down, but that's just scratching the surface of what is different between the shows here and there. I don't know if you've noticed, but when we have people on television here, they tell us more than we could ever want to know about them. Like on Wheel of Fortune, we constantly see people naming their kids and their dog and what their favorite sports teams are. And yeah, it makes things a little more personal, but, and I'm just making an assumption here, a lot of us don't really care about those things. Whereas in Japan, they don't make things as personal. One could even say that they kind of dehumanize the contestants for entertainment value.
You know, I never really actually thought about it like that. Like, people here really do love to tell their entire life story to the audience. It's like their 15 minutes of fame, and they really need to get their faces on camera.
Yeah, and it gets pretty, what's the word, annoying after a while.
Hey there, I wouldn't go that far, but I definitely see your point. Now, I don't want to repeat myself too much, but earlier we talked about how game shows have a long television history. Just to touch on that point again, we've had some pretty long-running shows. Do you think we can talk about that and what some of the longest-running shows are, and kind of like where they take place along the world and how long they kind of ran for?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. We actually have a top 10 list, and I can go over it right now. So starting with the number 10, the longest-running game shows from around the world are number 10, The Tunnels, thanks to everyone from Japan, which has aired for 21 years. There's 9, which is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire from Britain, which aired for 22 years. After that, we have Newt Veer Newt from South Africa with 30 years. And then Family Feud, that's in the USA. Thank you, Steve Harvey. It's been going for 45 years. Then Wheel of Fortune, again from the United States with 46 years. Truth or Consequence, also from the United States with 48 years. A Question of Sport from Britain at a whopping 50 years. Sabado Gigante from Chile rounds out the top 3 with 53 years. And then we have Jeopardy from the United States of America at 57 years. And finally, The Price is Right from the United States of America with an incredible 65 years.
Yes, well, thank you for sharing your vast knowledge with us tonight, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you again in another episode.
The pleasure was all mine. I'm just happy I got to tell everyone a little bit more about game shows.
Now that our contestants had the chance to reset and recharge, let's get ready for their second and final round of our game show night. And welcome back to What the Game Show Show, the Family Feud ripoff featuring absolutely zero families. Now, let's take a moment to get to know our contestants a bit better, starting with Garrett. Why don't you tell us something about yourself?
Well, hi Zion. Of course. As you said, my name is Garrett, and I'm a professional badminton player. Like you mentioned earlier, I love classic movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and one day I hope to become one of the badminton greats and take home the gold at the Olympics. So thank you for having me.
Nice to officially meet you. Now for our next contestant.
Hi, Zion. I'm Joey, and I'm an aspiring movie director. I love classic cartoon movies. They've inspired some of my own work. You know what? I also enjoy pop music, and I think pop culture is just so interesting.
And with that said, let's get started. Contestants, are you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Name a house you never want to be stuck in.
A jailhouse?
Unfortunately, that is not the most popular answer. Joey, your answer, please.
How about a haunted house?
And that is correct. 5 points to you, Joey. All right. What type of pictures do you expect to see on social media?
A selfie.
Oh, that is correct. Another 5 points. All right. In a horror movie, name the place the characters go to hide from the killer.
That has to be a cabin in the woods.
All right. Ding, ding, ding. That is the top answer. 5 points to Garrett. All right, you two. Name a famous sitcom.
Seinfeld?
That is correct. Another 5 points to Garrett. It's now time for the last question. Joey, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Garrett, are you ready?
Hell yeah.
Okay. Name something that someone might win on a game show.
Money.
That is the top answer. Congratulations, Joey. Look at you are our winner. Ooh. Now, everyone, here at What the Show, we applaud your effort. Unfortunately, due to budget cuts, We couldn't afford the promised prize, but instead we can offer you a voucher for a free meal at one of the fabulous restaurants located on San Francisco State University campus. I prefer shitty.
What the fuck?
And that's our show for tonight, so thank you all for coming and seeing our amazing contestants participate. Once again, to close out our show tonight, I wanted to read a letter from one of our viewers. Some of my earliest memories were sitting on the floor of my grandmother's living room, watching The Price is Right with her. These shows feel so nostalgic to me, and now as an adult, I find that I still enjoy them. They remind me of those summers and all of the fun I used to have trying to guess the different prices with my Nona. It almost became a ritual for us. After we had our breakfast every morning, we'd settle in and get the guesses going. Now I find that my ritual has changed a bit, and my show of choice has shifted to shows like Jeopardy, but it doesn't negate the fact that I start to feel all warm and fuzzy inside when I think about it. It's amazing to think that shows like this have been on the air since people like my grandmother were kids, and that multiple generations of families have been able to create their own memories with these shows from the comfort of their living room. And that concludes this week's episode of What the Show. Tune in next week as we explore infomercials?